Good morning, teacher. Good morning, classmates. Our group is going to present you the unit number 12. The unit number 12 is the differences between L1 and L2 and the learning process. We have to remind first that L1 is our mother tongue. L2, our target language. We are going to look the difference between context, weight, and age.
Now I'm going to explain about age difference with L1 and L2. L1 learning starts when the learner is a baby and continues through the early years of childhood through the adolescence for university. Babies learn language at the same time as their cognitive skills, like the mental process that they involve in thinking, understanding, and learning development. Also, they have a strong motivation in L1 in the acquisition of the language. Also, it is essential the life skills in order to develop this process, and also they need to be motivated in order to communicate. In L2 difference, primary learners are still develop many of their cognitive skills, and secondary learners also they continue develop these learning skills. Adults have full development of these skills because they have expectations, and they have beliefs, and they have experience of how to learn a new language. And also it has a different motivation. It could be little or strong motivation in the acquisition of the language. And that's then surrounding and by the class.
So now we are going to see the differences of weight and context. I'm going to explain you the L1 exposure. And the L1, we have the most time exposure because it's the need of interaction of ourselves into our family and our environment. Some learning in an easy way because your mother and your father talk to you in time in order to learn complex the necessity to communicate with others. The surroundings have to be with the people that is around you, that mainly is the family. The silence period in the L1 is at the beginning of our age when we are babies, because we get all the input and then we start to speak. Playing and experimenting with the language is also doing at childhood, because it's the age where we are allowed to commit errors, and we are learning new things about vocabulary and language. Praise and encouragement are done by our parents, like when a mother says, say mommy, mommy, and then give you the food, something like that. Simple language is also the basics that our surrounding people taught us in the first ages. Reformulation is when a father tells us 2 and 3 times the same question in order to get the main idea.
According to this chart, we need to make emphasis in L2 in the environment of the classroom. In this part, it's important to specify the language guidance. In this case, in L2, happened that teacher tried to involve the specific vocabulary to the students. Also, the structure before of the chance. The structure imply the different tense that the sentence can inference in this part of the L2. Motivation to communication is difficult when a student learning a second language because it's difficult to motivate to learn a second language. The interaction occurs in the classroom according to the next established. For example, teacher-student, also a student. In this part, make an interference because the student is kind of have a kind of obligation to learn and share the interaction in the classroom. Outside life is difficult for a student because when you learn a second language, you only establish the language in the classroom, because when you go outside, you interrupt the language. The product language is the same on outside life, because if you interrupt the language, you don't produce the language. Control practice is according to the classroom. If you receive a good motivation in the classroom, you learn according to your level. In this case, is the reason because L2 is not exposing in a good way into our target language. The difference among praise and encouragement is difficult to motivate and to receive a praise according to what is the most important part that you need to acquire in order to develop your language. The little individual attention, this part is important for teachers because they need to concentrate in what is the most important part for the individual aspect. Simple and correct language is important because in L2, you need to develop according to the quantity of the vocabulary that you need to manage in order to continue with the produce of the language.
Yeah. Now I'm going to talk about the tips and language teaching classes. First of all, we have A. It is said that when the students are young, they are most benefit in acquiring the language because they do it in the same way as L1, for example, through interaction, exposure, and learning to do it. Meanwhile, adults can do it by just if they have their cognitive abilities well developed. Motivation. It is good to motivate the students all the time, and teachers can do it by looking for strategies that students like. Learning style. And we have a diversity of students. Teachers need to find out students' learning styles, needs, and expectations, and try to satisfy them. They can do it by using a variety of explanations, topics, methods of operation, and approaches. Silent period. It is more useful for beginners as they don't have vocabulary, no vocabulary or grammar structure, and they don't use the language all the time. Meanwhile, for adults, they want to use the language all the time. Exposure. Teachers must encourage the students to use the language as much as possible. For example, listening to radio programs, songs, or reading books or magazines, writing to your pen friends, or making English-speaking friends. Confidence. We need to avoid correcting students all the time, as we need to build up confidence and motivation in the class. Praise. It is good for young learners because they respond well to it, and one way to praise students is by giving attention to students or by interacting with them all the time. So by taking into account these tips, students will be motivated and succeed in the learning teaching process.
Yeah, in the handouts that were given to you, there is a chart that you have to complete with the comparison about L1 and L2. It is about age, context, exposure, price, correction, simplified language, ways of learning, motivation, silence period, and language for use. So let's see whether your answer. Christina, can you help me about the age in group L1 and L2, please?
Yes. The age in first language learning is when they are babies in the childhood, and in second language language to learning. They start learning at primary, secondary, or maybe in the childhood.
Alright, thank you so much. Benito, can you tell me about the exposure?
It is when students are exposed naturally to the language.
And L2?
And L2, they need to know about the structure of grammar.
Thank you so much. And can you help me please, Daisy, about the way of learning?
I think that students pick up language by hearing the language. Also, if the students acquire language is so in school.
Yeah, okay, so here we have the answers for the chart. That says that in age, in L1 is going to be about baby, young, and child. While the age for L2 is primary, secondary, and adults. The context at home, the other one in school, exposure surrounding, and there will be 3 or 4 hours a week. And let's go for the last one that says language used for. In L1 is talking about things that they see around them, while in L2 is talking about experience and things related to life outside in the classroom. That's why it's going to be difficult for students to speak in a better way L2.
Okay, students, to finish, you are going to complete this quiz. Please, Anita, can you read the instructions?
For questions 1 to 6, match the aspects of learning with the type of learner listed, A, B, or C. Mark the correct letter, A, B, or C, on your answer sheet. You need to use some options more than once.
Okay, please, Andres, read type of learner.
Type of learning is
Please, can you help Berito?
Type of learner A, language 1 learner, and L1 learner, L2 adult learner, and both L1 and L2 adult learner.
Okay, thank you. So now you have 2 minutes to complete the quiz. Please do it.
Yeah, time is up. Now take out a different color of your pencil or pen. Now we are going to correct, okay? The first one, these learners seem to respond to praise and encouragement, and it helps them to develop their language and skills. Is letter C, okay? Yeah, put a tick if you have the correct answer, okay? If you're not, you can write the correct letter, okay? Number 2, these learners don't need to be constantly correct. They need to experiment and to play with language. The correct letter is letter C. Okay, put a tick, you have correct. Yeah, the second one, letter C. The third one, these learners will listen and process language and will not speak at all. Sometimes, for many months before beginning to use language, the correct letter is A, okay?
A.
Yeah, letter A, the correct. Number 4, these learners are able to share experience and talk about the things they see around them and about experience in their lives. The correct letter is B, okay? And the last one, these learners need some controlled practice and a focus on form. The correct letter is B, okay? B. Yeah? And now, can you pass the quiz? That's all.